Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue our NFL predictions week 13, and this week it's Thanksgiving week, where no teams have a bye. Last week I went 9 and 5, total season record 116 and 61 and 1. And with Thanksgiving week being one of the more underrated weeks of the NFL season, I like to shake things up with. I like to, shake things up when it comes to the NFL in this particular week. Last year I did which famous fans these teams have. The year before that, I think I did throwback logos. This year, I decided, let me play with these logos and redesign them to their hated division rivals. And with that, let's get on with the first of three Thanksgiving games, with the Green Bay Packers taking on the Detroit Lions. And I'm surprised that these two teams aren't their biggest rivals. Green Bay picked up a win over Minnesota Vikings, where Minnesota was largely inept. And for the Detroit Lions, they had to rally to beat the Detroit Lions. And you can also thank Jahmyr Gibbs' performance for that. In this game, these two teams have already played each other. If you remember back in week 1, it was the Green Bay Packers that got the win over the Detroit Lions. But lately, I have not been impressed by Detroit. I don't know if people caught up to them. I don't know if the play calling got suspicious. Something about Detroit is just not sitting right with me. And you know what? Because of that, I'm actually going to slight my pick towards Green Bay to get the season sweep. I don't know. They just look a little more consistent than Detroit these days. And then we have the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Dallas Cowboys for the second Thanksgiving game of the season. Kansas City picked up a come from behind victory over the Indianapolis Colts. They had to use overtime to get it. And meanwhile, the Dallas Cowboys, they too had a come from behind victory. They got down 21 to nothing, but then scored 24 unanswered to beat their hated division rivals, Philadelphia Eagles. Now, word on the street is this game is setting up to be the highest rated non-Super Bowl game in NFL history. And I would not be surprised if it managed to get there. Maybe because fans expect Taylor Swift to be there. Actually, she's been kind of in my opinion, she disappeared from the NFL scene. Not really going to complain there. But that's not what we're talking about. But for this matchup, yeah, putting the Chiefs and Cowboys was kind of predictable for Thanksgiving. And I was going to pick Dallas because any given day, the Cowboys could beat anybody. And even though they're at home, I'm still not impressed with their defense. Even if they shut out the Eagles in the second half. And for that reason, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs to get the road victory. But maybe the Cowboys can make this competitive. And then our third Thanksgiving game, we have the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Baltimore Ravens. And for a second, I almost called them the Cleveland Browns because of how their logo looked. Speaking of the Bengals, they lost to the New England Patriots, but they're gaining Joe Burrow. He is set to return on Thanksgiving. I think the Bengals are making a big mistake allowing him to come back, but that's neither here or there. Meanwhile, the Ravens have won 5 straight, beating the New York Jets. Low scoring game, but hey, a win's a win, and they now sit in first place of the division. Now back to the Bengals. I did say they're gaining Joe Burrow, but they're likely going to be without T. Higgins as he's in concussion protocol. But Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, they're coming back. As Chase, he's coming back from a 1-game suspension. This is set up to be one of the highest scoring games of the week if Joe Burrow is, Joe Burrow. And even though I could lean towards the Bengals. Their defense is pretty bad. I got the Ravens continuing their momentum, getting the win, and hopefully strengthen its grip on first place. And then we have Black Friday, where the Chicago Bears will be traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. The Bears, they just winning the find a way to win games game as they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Philadelphia Eagles, there's something in this water on this team that doesn't sit well with me at all. Because up 21 nothing on the road against your hated division rivals, the Dallas Cowboys, yet you find a way to blow it. And some people say, is it Kevin Patolo? Is it, well, the defense running out of gas? Is it the fact that they played with fire this entire season and they finally got burned? Could be. I actually think it's a combination of all of these things. Maybe the chemistry isn't there. But they do have a chance to get things back in order against the Bears. As actually, I think this is going to be a really good game. Now, when I try saying that at the beginning of the season, when the schedule came out, I said, "Oh boy, this might be another Eagle blowout." But now, given that the Eagles are struggling, things changed. I'm actually am going to take the Philadelphia Eagles to get back on track. They're at home. Hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully they realize their potential. Also, the Bears are dealing with some defensive injuries. Is another reason why I'm taking the Philadelphia Eagles here. Now on to Sunday slate. You got the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Cleveland Browns. The 49ers picked up a Monday night win over the Carolina Panthers despite Brock Purdy throwing 3 picks. Meanwhile, the Cleveland Browns, they got a win over the Las Vegas Raiders. Granted, it was the Raiders, and for Shedeur Sanders, he was good, not great, but he did enough to win the game. I think that's what the Browns really wanted. And in this matchup, yeah, don't expect a lot of points in this one. But I am going to give. I think the 49ers are going to get the win here. But and here's a fun fact. Last time the 49ers traveled to Cleveland, they actually took an L. So that's just some information out there. Use it to your advantage. Then we got an AFC South matchup between the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Tennessee Titans. The Jaguars picked up another overtime victory, this time over the Arizona Cardinals. But again, this team should be playing way better. Meanwhile, the Tennessee Titans lost to the Seattle Seahawks, where, okay, at least they didn't look awful. Count that as you may. And I actually can see Tennessee maybe sneaking a victory here because I have not been impressed with the Jacksonville Jaguars. But it's the Titans. I am still going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars to win this game. And speaking of the AFC South, we got another matchup which, in my honest opinion, should have been flexed to the Sunday night spot. You got the Houston Texans taking on the Tennessee Titans. The Texans winning 3 in a row. And this time over the Buffalo Bills. And all of their wins coming without CJ Stroud. That is telling. Go show you that their defense is a monster. They'll be taking on the Indianapolis Colts, where they're coming off a heartbreaking loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. I actually partially blame Shane Steichen, but I wouldn't lose too much sleep over it. Indianapolis, you should, if bearing a catastrophic collapse, you should be fine. And taking a look at this game, it's back home. Indianapolis, they need a bounce back. I'm going to go ahead and take the Colts to win. Even if Stroud may be set to come back this game, I'm going to take the Colts to win. Then we got the New Orleans Saints to take on the Miami Dolphins. Saints losing to the Falcons. Not much interesting happened. Not much else interesting happened in that game. They'll be taking on the Miami Dolphins, where they're coming off of Dolphins are coming off a bye week. Last time we saw them, they were in Madrid, Spain, picking up an ugly overtime win over the Washington Commanders. And I feel like the Dolphins have figured things out for now, even if it's too little, too late. And given that they're taking on a lesser New Orleans Saints team, I think the Dolphins will take this victory. They'll get the win, and that'll be, I think, their third win in a row, or 4 out of the last 5. They'll take it. Now we got the Atlanta Falcons taking on the New York Jets. Falcons picking up a win over the New Orleans Saints, and the Jets taking on the Baltimore Ravens, which they lost. Excuse me. For the bit, all right. I think this game might be a little on the uglier side, and yeah, I'm just gonna roll with the Falcons in this one. I think the Falcons, they should get it done. Repeat last week's efforts, and for the Jets, just end the season. Now we got the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Cardinals losing another overtime game, this time to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Meanwhile, they'll be taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, coming off a blowout loss to the Los Angeles Rams, which, okay, it's the Rams. Not going to blame them too much for it, but they're probably going to be without Baker Mayfield, at least for this matchup, as he suffered a pretty bad shoulder injury, which means we could see Teddy Bridgewater, which means this game could be kind of weird. This game I actually think could go in any direction. And because I say that, I'm just going to slight myself towards the home team to get the win. But I will say, I won't be surprised if Arizona goes on the road and get the W. And now we got the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Carolina Panthers. Rams picking up a dominant victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Matthew Stafford, he done jumped the lead in the MVP race. Yes, this late in his career, he has jumped. He done took the lead in the race for the most valuable player. He'll be taking on the Carolina Panthers, who are coming off a pretty weird loss to the 49ers. Defensively, I'll say they didn't play that bad. Being they forced Brock Purdy to throw 3 interceptions, J.C. Horn getting 2 of them. But the offense was just atrocious. And taking on the Rams, the Panthers are going to be facing an uphill battle. I'm going to take I am going to take the Rams to win this game. To me, they're the best team in the NFC. Best team in the NFL, that's to be determined, but the Rams right now, they're firing on all cylinders, and I don't see a sign of them slowing down. Next, we got the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Seattle Seahawks. The Minnesota Viking logo looked like my old high school logo, but basically that's how they've been playing on offense. The offense for the Vikings have not been playing good these last couple of weeks. J.J. McCarthy had another ugly game. Meanwhile, for Seattle, they bounced back, got a win over the Tennessee Titans. It was closer than what people thought, but it's another road victory regardless for the Seattle Seahawks. And take a look at this game being played in Seattle. Seattle will be donning their throwbacks, but I'm not using the logo because I decided to do the logo switch up for this week. I'm taking the Seahawks to win this game. They shouldn't have a problem here. And I know Sam Darnold wants some revenge to tell Minnesota, you should have kept me. And now we got the Buffalo Bills taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Buffalo, ugly loss to the Houston Texans. Josh Allen threw 2 pretty ugly interceptions and nearly ruined all my hopes on fantasy. But he didn't because I won anyway. They'll be taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they lost to the Chicago Bears. Not only did they lose to the Bears, they now lost their division lead. But in this game, being a 4 o'clock game, we know the Steelers aren't good at any other time slot outside of 1 o'clock, even if they lost. Even though last week was their first 1 o'clock loss to the season. I do think the Bills. I think the Bills will. Here's what I think is going to happen in this game. I think the Bills going to get off to a slow start. That has been testament to them all season. But I think they'll slowly figure it out. Josh Allen will probably realize his high-end talent that he has. And I think the Bills going to do just enough to get the win. But I will not be surprised if Pittsburgh steals one. Because they're known for stealing victories on their quest to go 9-8. Then we got an AFC West matchup between the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. Raiders, it's a mess there. Losing to the Browns and Chip Kelly, the highest paid offensive coordinator of the season, he got fired. Meanwhile, for the Chargers, I think they're coming off a bye week. Last time we saw them, oof, they got killed by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Luckily, they had a bye week, time to lick wounds, regroup. But for this game, we have seen these two teams play already. They played week 2 on Monday night where the Chargers easily got the win. It wasn't pretty, but they got the job done. And I think in this game, it's going to be no different. I'm taking the Chargers to dominate in this game. Raiders, you're just closing. Join the race for the number 1 overall pick. And the last 2 games are just prime time wise. Got the Denver Broncos taking on the Washington Commanders. The Broncos, well, both teams are coming off a bye week, with the Broncos coming off a win over the Kansas City Chiefs to submit their lead in the AFC West. They'll be taking on the Washington Commanders, where they traveled to Spain and left with pain. They coming off another long-lasting loss, and this season just been a lost year. Injuries, sophomore slump, growing pains. This is a growing pains type season for the Commanders. And in this matchup, taking on an elite defense coming off a bye week, yeah, things could get ugly really fast if the Broncos have a glimmer of hope on offense. I'm taking the Broncos to win this game. And last but not least, we got the New York Giants taking on the New England Patriots. Giants, another fourth quarter lead blown, losing to the Detroit Lions. But at least Jameis Winston looked nice. They'll be taking on the New England Patriots, where they're coming off. It wasn't a pretty win over the Cincinnati Bengals, but it was a win nonetheless. They got their dub. And yeah, I don't see any other scenario with the Giants winning. I got the Patriots winning, and they should dominate in this game. And taking a look at the NFC standings, we already have our first team eliminated. That being the New York Giants. Who would ever thought they would be the first team eliminated with the Tennessee Titans exist? And trust me, more teams will be joining this list in the coming weeks. But on that note, that concludes the Week 13 Thanksgiving NFL predictions. Tell me what y'all think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Hopefully everyone have a good Thanksgiving. If you're traveling, safe travels. Also, please gamble safely. I'll see you next time.